what's a common misconception when we're talking about measuring people's emotions, or maybe a better way to frame that, measuring why people do what they do in a buying journey? What's a common misconception that a financial brand leader might have that in reality is actually incorrect and can be backed by data?
Um, well, let me say that the first thing that is the common misconception when we come in is the word emotion. Most people, when you say emotion, you equate it to some variance of emotion, like happiness or sadness or fear or elation. I can't measure that and wouldn't claim to. And I think that anybody says that they can is full of it. Uh, so when you asked me earlier, how can you measure emotion? I say I can't. The reality is that emotions are a cocktail
Mm,
of neurotoxins and things that your brain and hormones that your brain releases,
yeah.
and we give those emotions names, and they do various things to our body, right? They create anxiety or all kinds of different types of things. The common misconception is that we need to somehow create one of these named emotions when it comes to someone in the buying experience, and that's not really true. All we really need to do is say something that aligns with either the expectation or aligns with the memory system and being able to hit on a belief system of the brain. So, for instance, a good example in the financial services space is uh, oh, I'll get it wrong. I'm terrible with acronyms. The military brand I want to
Oh,
say AARP.
yes.
The
I'm
armed
thinking AAU.
armed. Holy
Military.
cow! Um, it's the one that had Gronk as the spokesman.
Yeah, they're out of San Antonio. I know exactly who you're talking about. Uh,
Uh, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're both blanking on it. See, that was toxic. That was me. Like you would have gotten it nine times, or 99 times out of 100 if I wouldn't have said anything. But well, I mean, they focus on military, right? Um, and this is an obvious example because they're such a big player in the space, but it doesn't really have any relevance, right? Like the fact that someone has a background in the military or they have a family member that has a military experience, that doesn't have any relevance on banking at all, right? It's
USAA.
USA. Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm
USA.
because once again, my mind. I just had Jill Castilla on the podcast, and she's out of Oklahoma, and she just launched. They have a community bank, but they just launched a neo bank or a digital first bank called Roger. So that's where when you said military, I'm thinking my mind just went to Roger, but no, USAA out of San Antonio.
Roger, cool name, right? But all you're really doing is that entire brand. All it really well, first of all, it's a demand based bank because it's non-inclusionary,
Mm-hmm.
which human beings love. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is they're really just connecting to some importance to that family. And it's a thing, right? Military families are a thing. It is a deal that you have a connection to. We have several team members that come from military families, and it's a part of their lives still, even though they never served.
Yeah.
So all they really did was make an emotional connection that aligns with the belief system of the brain. You don't have to make someone feel elated or whatever. You have to just speak to them in a way that is meaningful, has a meaningful nuance. And they don't and banks hate this because the reality is if you want to do this well, excuse me, if you want to do this well, you have to understand that it's not going to include everyone.
Right.
You have to be okay shrinking the size of the pie for the end result of winning a greater percentage of that pie full of loyal people. And that's exactly what they've done. And any bank can do it, right? They just have to figure out what that nuance is that they want to go after.
So what you're talking about is something that I've discussed multiple times on this podcast. I have written about it in my book, Banking on Digital Growth. The idea of a niche financial brand creates affinity. Frost Bank also out of San Antonio, Texas. They have recently published research called the state of financial belonging. And it's the idea that so many view their relationship with their financial institution, it's transactional. But when you think about some of these niche financial brands that are serving a niche segment, they're creating an affinity that I belong or I can identify, associate to this group of people. Is this what you're tapping into here?
Yeah, and there's a way to, brand theory and economic theory has shown us that this works over and over and over and over again. But you can make it up. Like it can be completely irrelevant. Most of the times, we we carve through a financial institution's existing customer base to find that nuance because there may be something there that they don't see.
Sure.
And if we find something, then we know, hey, you could just say this now, and you're already going to be saying the thing you may have been accidentally saying, right? Or that has been something that has come out through the experience of the people that work at your bank or banks, and it'll make your life really easy. But I mean, you can pick on just something geographic. And when you said frost, I have no idea what that was. But like, let's say that you're up in the north somewhere. You're in the Dakotas
Mm,
or Minnesota, and you created a bank called like Snowdrift Bank. Well, snow is a part of that culture, right?
yeah.
And then say we just want a bank. We're just going to make a bank that is it doesn't do anything special. It just talks about snow all the time. And maybe for your giveaways, instead of giving away a toaster, you give away a snowmobile,
Yeah.
and you really own that idea. And you will get customers will gravitate towards that idea, and it's nonsensical. It has nothing to do with the frontal lobe. Your interest rates are irrelevant, and like hire people to work in there that love snow and just own that culture. And people, you'll be shocked at how easy it is to onboard customers, and your customer acquisition costs are easier. You get more organic growth, like all the KPIs that you want at your bank, you can get by just understanding that nuance and owning it.
You know, it even goes deeper than that. In this study with Frost Bank, they found that those who feel a sense of financial belonging are 160% more likely to have better financial health. And
Hmm.
so I think it goes deeper. It doesn't just create value for the bank or the credit union. It also creates an even deeper value for the account holder or for the member. One of the things that we started this conversation and almost now bringing it full circle is applying this knowledge, applying this insight, because you can have all the data in the world, but unless you distill it down and turn that insight into action, it really doesn't mean anything. What's a practical way that a bank, a credit union, whether they're the marketing side, the sales side, the leadership side, how can they apply the insights gained from what we've been talking about today?
Well, the I'll tell you, there's not any easy. Well, the answer is easy. The application is not. So here's a couple of thoughts. The first thing is that one of the outputs of that study you're referring to is that it improves someone's their financial disposition, right? Whatever
Yep.
that is. That is in every bank's chart, right? Like it's not like some bank is like we don't care, right? They all will say that that is significant, and they'll read that study and they'll say belonging. That's good. Let's say that. So they will like verbatim use the word like, financial belonging or whatever, but they don't really know what it means,
Sure.
right? They're not encapsulating the idea that, well, in order to do that, you have to be a center of gravity for someone to belong to. And if you can't create that, then all the words in the world aren't going to matter, especially in banking, because it is absolutely like, look, we have a very sort of unique non-macroeconomic way that we measure commoditization. Banks now, specifically like deposit account banking, personal banking, is the most commoditized industry we have measured to date
Mm,
out of over 500 studies. So it is not an easy place to be successful. But really, the thing that they should embrace is once you figure out the thing, like what is the thing, right? Is it restaurants? Is it snow? Is it whatever the thing is that you need to grab onto and you want to be known for? You have to own it and
Yeah.
be authentic. So you need to hire for it. You need to have events, right? And the problem that banks have is that their net to catch fish is so big they can't even lift it.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if you throw it in the water at all. Because if someone says, well, you need to really go to events and be authentic, it's like, what events? All of that, all events, we want to be involved in the community,
Mm.
which every say, and every credit union as well. And they do a lot of good, but like, does it turn into revenue?
Sure.
Most of the time, not at all. So you need to, if once you find your thing, your life gets really easy, right? If it's restaurants, well, what events do you go to? Well, now you know, right? And when you go in, you're going to bank the restaurant, and your goal is to bank all of the employees as well.
Hmm.
Right? Well, the types of education that you want to put out as a financial institution are really obvious. You know that they're working on tips, and here are the three things you need to know to build financial, strength based on the way that you are compensated.
Yeah.
But you can't do that and go and sell to engineers, right? It's two completely different worlds. So that's the problem with execution is the banks, most financial institutions are unwilling to figure out who they are. And then even if they do, they're unwilling to like own it because it'll be so painful for them because like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose all of our engineer. And that's the problem is that fear of loss and that then
Yes.
status quo.
That's a great point. It's there's a perception that if we just focus our effort, our energy, our time, our attention, our resources on this one particular market segment, and we're saying no to everyone else, we're going to go out of business because of that. And I would actually kind of argue the exact opposite. I think you would probably thrive when you have, and it takes courage. And you know what is courage? It's having wet pants and still taking a step forward. Knowing
Yeah.
it's making a decision, making a commitment to do the hard things. And there are some financial brands, like Jill Castilla, she's one of them, that they have launched this niche organization. I know Nimbus, who I sit on their advisory board, they're doing a lot in helping community institutions find the niches and build brands for those specific niches. So it's a work in progress. I definitely see we're making strides in that direction at a macro level, but there's definitely a lot of work to do.